After Lewis Hamilton's triumphant return to the top step of the podium after a thrilling British Grand Prix this weekend just gone, Mercedes have announced that they'll be bringing upgrades to the next 2 rounds before the summer break. So starting in Hungary, they're going to have their next major upgrade package. This is not going to be one of those small packages which they've bought since the Miami Grand Prix up until Silverstone. It's not going to be a new front wing, a new rear wing. It's going to be a substantial difference. You could almost think of it as a b-spec, particularly is how I am perceiving the wording from both the Mercedes people. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of complete overhaul of the side pod configuration on the W15. This is an area I've thought since the beginning of the season is going to be having changes made to it. So I think we're going to get a complete overhaul of the inlets. I think maybe they're going to follow the rest of the top field and follow the Red Bull overbite system. I think that's a particular area in which Mercedes could go down, and that would be classed as a significant upgrade. And I think alongside potentially suspension upgrades to the front and rear suspension as well, that's another avenue in which we could see more gains from there. And of course, potentially again, their 3rd or 4th floor of the season. Now, internally and how they're portraying it to the press and public, Mercedes have said that this is going to be an upgrade and they want to continuously bring upgrades from which the others will not be able to keep up. So Mercedes, along with their additional 10% of allocated time in the wind tunnel and CFD, thanks for the midway point of the season's updates after the Austrian Grand Prix, they feel in a extremely strong position to start to throw much more performance, heaps of performance onto the W15. This comes after, in their own words, as having described themselves as bullying the W15 into a window in which the balance of the car is good, the platform is good, and they've just gone from strength to strength, confidence from confidence, weekend in, weekend out. Starting with the Miami Grand Prix, of course, when they introduced the latest specification of floor on the W15 and subsequently a lighter version of this current floor. And that is something which is fantastic for the team, particularly after Lewis's win as well. And I think we're going to see again at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Lewis and this W15 fighting for pole position and for the race victory. This is a track Lewis flipping loves. He loves this track. It's like one of his favourite. You could put it up there with Silverstone. You can put it up there with Montreal. And of course, this particular track as well. And so I think we're in for a hell of a weekend in 2 weeks' time. And all of this talk of just pure performance upgrades is finally thanks to the team having found that what they would like to call sweet spot in this ground effect era for the first time since it began in 2022. It's taken 3 years or 2.5 years from which they've had failed experiments with the W13, revisions with the W14, and even at the beginning of this season with the W15 to finally find that perfect sweet spot. Now, they go into a little bit more in-depth details about what this is. So let's go over that now. Mercedes' problem in the past had always been they found heaps of time in the wind tunnel and CFD with their upgrades, not only on this car, but the previous 2 Formula 1 cars as well. Now, the problem for them was it wasn't transferable data from the virtual world to the real world. So think of it like this. There's theoretical downforce and usable downforce. Theoretical, quite obviously, is what you find in the wind tunnel and CFD when you're running your simulations and whatnot. And usable downforce is the actual real world downforce that a team has at their disposal with their current Formula 1 cars for a given year. And in the previous seasons, Mercedes' theoretical downforce, which they found in the wind tunnels, just did not translate into usable downforce on the actual racetracks of the Formula 1 calendars. And this is due to porpoising in 2022, among many other factors, which has gone into huge amounts of details over the last 2 seasons. Now finally, it's no longer a case of theoretical downforce and usable downforce no longer are at differences. What they're finding theoretically is coming into usable downforce on the real world cars. And this is the particular reason in which Mercedes now have finding themselves on a fairly aggressive upgrade push for the Hungarian Grand Prix and the Belgium Grand Prix. There's going to be 2 big upgrade packages for both of the next 2 weekends before the summer break. And you can understand why Mercedes would want to push these forward. It gives them 2 race weekends to get to grips with these new upgrade packages, gather so much data from 2 completely different levels of racetrack in terms of downforce and what the cars need out of a setup for each of these tracks. We have the high downforce monster that is Hungary, and you're pretty much running Monaco levels of downforce. And then the complete contrast and opposite of that of Belgium, of Spa-Francorchamps, which is practically running low downforce, pretty much as low as what you would do in Monza. And of course, you're going to have to trim the front and rear wings to compensate for that. And so you're going to get the perfect balance in data terms from which to study over the mid-break throughout the season, and then come back pushing with your next upgrades, which you will of course plan during that period. And I think it's the perfect storm what's been happening with Mercedes this season. They got on top of the balance issues, on top of the correlation issues. They fixed the balance issues with the W15. Then the performance, which was inherently within that particular state of the W15 it found itself in, started to be extracted. And now they've begun to add performance, and they will do so continuously for the rest of the season. And I think the team can start to finally look towards the top end of the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. I think unless something miraculous happens where Mercedes find upgrades that make them dominant for 5 to 6 rounds, they won't win the Constructors' Championship, but they can certainly finish within the top 2. I think that's a very feasible target to have for the team. And then of course, on personal terms for both Hamilton and Russell, it's going to be all about picking up pole positions and race wins and podiums on a continuous basis. Because of course, with Hamilton going to Ferrari, he will want to look to sign off on as successful a final stint as he can with this team, in which he's had the most success in his career with. But yeah, that's the video guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, click the like button on this video, subscribe and turn on notifications if you're new and have found this video, and I'll catch you all in a video later in the week.